It said if we don't learn from the mistakes of the past, then we're doomed to repeat them. And I understand all too well that we live in these extraordinary times. They are turbulent times too, times of great disruption. It's also a time when Armenians right around the globe are rallying again to protest the hostilities that have broken out between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It's incredible to think that more than 100 years on, Armenians are again fighting for survival. Incredible. A century ago, a genocide was taking place, and just like then, much of the world and the powers that be could do little to help Armenia. Because the world was prevented at the time from providing assistance by both the Great War, which was taking place, and a world pandemic sweeping the globe. 100 years later, Azerbaijan, a one-time Soviet state, as was Armenia, has chosen this moment to suddenly launch an invasion against a neighbour. Why, you ask? Well, it's very simple. The attack has come just as the USA faces presidential elections. In other words, it's distracted. And the COVID-19 pandemic is also preventing many people from moving around the world. Azerbaijan has decided to invade the predominantly Armenian region called Artsakh because it believes this strategic mountainous territory, known as Nagorno-Karabakh, is theirs. Some have referred to this outbreak of war as the Sadarabad of the current Armenian generation. Now, this is what we know. Innocent Armenians, innocent civilians, simply going about their lives, have come under attack for no good reason. 2 weeks ago, the dictatorship of Ilham Aliyev, the man who rules Azerbaijan with an iron fist, launched a series of attacks on Armenians in Artsakh. The Azeris targeted mainly civilian buildings throughout the country. And according to authorities in Artsakh, over 50% of the population, close to 75,000 children, women and the elderly, have been displaced. Although the attacks were not directed at Armenia, the fighting is taking place in Artsakh, which has been closely aligned to Armenia for centuries and predominantly Christian. At the very heart of the current disruption, much as it was a century ago, Turkey is playing a role as stirrer. It's chosen to join Azerbaijan in the region, pledging its unwavering support to the Azeris, who are ethnically Turkish. So why would 80 million Turks be interested in helping Azerbaijan, who number about another 10 million, against a few million Armenians? For the Armenians around the world, the latest fighting is a haunting reminder of a truly dark time in world history. The dying days of the Ottoman Empire were filled with horror for all Armenians and a number of other Christians. Turkey's then leadership was desperate to shore up its country. They introduced a strategy which rightly has been condemned. Led by the rulers of the Young Turk Revolution, the country was on the wrong side of the Great War and it needed to shore up its interests. Those that weren't included in the future of Turkey were the more than 1.5 million Armenians who resided in the country, close to 700,000 Greeks, mostly from Pontus, nearby, and 500,000 or so Assyrians, all of them Christians. Now, many of those lives were taken because of this directive. And what took place was so evil that those who witnessed it called it a genocide. Now, it's a claim that Turkey's authoritarian President Erdogan denies to this very day. But among those who witnessed the atrocities were many independent observers. Several missionaries at the time also saw what was happening. And a host of Australian soldiers, many of them POWs, returning from campaigns in the Middle East, also saw what went on. Turkey insists it was putting down a revolution, but first-hand accounts from survivors and some of my family members paint a quite different picture. What they paint is a story of genocide. So fast forward to September 2020, the BBC says the latest outbreak of hostilities has involved heavy artillery, tanks and missiles against innocent, hard-working Armenians who live in Artsakh. The death toll is rising every day. Artsakh's leader, Arik Harutyunyan, said on Twitter only the other day that his forces fired back as an act of self-protection and in response to days of deliberate shelling with prohibited cluster munitions. He ordered his troops to bombard Azerbaijan's military facility in Ganja. Azerbaijan's dictator, the 58-year-old Aliyev, who grabbed power in 2003, has been described as the prime instigator of the fighting. He says retaking this disputed territory is unfinished business. Armenia, says Nagorno-Karabakh, has been historically Armenian for centuries. Armenia says this action is simply a new attempt to create a pan-Turkish region. What makes Artsakh attractive to the regional powers is that it hosts several important oil and gas pipelines that provide some of Europe's energy. And then you complicate matters further. There's been another Muslim nation that sided with Azerbaijan and Turkey in the last few days, and that's Pakistan. Suddenly, three regional powers lining up against one. Almost 260 million people in lockstep on one side, attacking in Armenia, which numbers about 3.5 million people. What on earth is going on? Now, as citizens of the world, we need to express our outrage regarding these unprovoked attacks by Azerbaijan, which has been assisted by Turkey and Pakistan. And what's even more difficult to discount is the growing rhetoric from Turkey's President Erdogan. As if he hasn't got enough on his plate, he now appears to be pursuing a policy of ethnic cleansing of Armenians from their ancestral homeland in Artsakh. For Armenia to find peace, it will need the world to come to its assistance. But that cannot happen without your voice or your support. If you wish, you can join the global humanitarian efforts via armeniafund.org or in Australia through the Hayastan All Armenian Fund. You don't have to donate $1 million like the American reality TV star Kim Kardashian has done, who's of Armenian heritage. And I understand her family has donated a further $3 million. In fact, any amount will suffice. The Armenia Fund is directly helping those that have been impacted during this critical time with humanitarian aid. They're doing it through food, through shelter and medical care. As long as Erdogan's Turkey is lending his unconditional support to Azerbaijan along with Pakistan, then this war really is an existential threat to all Armenians around the globe. Armenians can't do it alone. The world must say, enough is enough. The bullies of the region need to desist and step away. Remember, evil will triumph if good people around the world do nothing. Let's make sure that we actually get to do something, especially as Azerbaijan, Turkey and Pakistan gather their forces to create a new Muslim caliphate.